Now we're
It's recording
recording
in
too.
progress.
Absolutely.
Oh
So
yeah.
welcome to my group,
Oh, thank you,
little baby,
Amanda.
baby group. Thank you
Lovely
for
to be
coming
here.
along today. And I'm going to leave all your introduction to you because you know
Okay.
you better than anybody.
Oh, yeah, I
Tell
do.
me about you.
Oh God. It's kind of one of those, where on earth do I begin? I suppose I begin from where I am and how I became who I am, I suppose.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm Beth and I'm a mum. That's I start with that because being a mum has forged my path and sort of opened and closed doors variously dependent because of various things have happened, and that is why I'm sat here with you, Amanda. If I wasn't a mum, I wouldn't be, because it's first of all, it took me out of my career as a teacher
Yeah.
to home educate my kids, because my eldest um, was autistic and I didn't think she would do well at school. I used to be a school teacher, and I knew that not that autistic kids tend to struggle, and I didn't really want to open the door to that knowingly. So there was a great home education. I can't speak. A great home education community in the area. So I was like, okay, let's just explore this. And I was just doing it for the time being, and all was well and good. But I didn't like not having a job, so I started doing things like I became a hypnobirthing practitioner, which I loved,
Oh,
loved, loved.
beautiful.
Like, because when I was pregnant, I was terrified of birth. I was convinced I was going to die. Like, it was serious. I was
Wow.
like, get to second trimester, and I'm like, why did I do this?
Swear away with
Okay, abandon,
abandon.
please. Thank you. I do swear quite a bit, so
Good.
apologies. Maybe not. Yeah. So I was really petrified, and so I had to do something about it. And I found out about hypnobirthing because it can help you take your fear away, and then consequently allow you to birth in a much safer way,
Yeah.
and consequently less likely to die. And look at me, I've had 3 babies and I didn't die. So,
That's pretty good.
so that was pretty impressive, and I did use hypnobirthing for all of them. And so after I did that, because I'm a teacher at heart,
Yeah.
really, I felt like, oh, I could do that. I'm very much, oh, I could do that. So I just did that. And but this beginning part to do the training took a bit of money, and so I was like, how can I get some money before I actually get some money, like from that job? So I went ahead and I created a little business doing baby singing classes,
Okay.
because I knew there was a market for it. I knew people were lusting it up, and I knew I could make money out of it really quickly and easily. And hey presto, I did. So I made the money in order to do my training. And then once I did my training, I kind of it wasn't working for me anymore because I was
Oh,
doing these
yeah.
classes. I was doing these classes. It was wonderful. It was fully booked every time, and but I had my eldest with me at the time, who was about 18 months, and during it we'd have like these musical instruments that the babies would play. But she was that bit older, and she would just get them and walk around and clunk babies on the head. And I kind of had to put a stop to that because I couldn't do it and get childcare because it would defeat the object. So I was like, okay, I better stop this. So I stopped.
Maybe that's a sign from the universe.
I know, literally. Okay, yeah, get in alignment, right? So I stopped that, but then by that time I hooked up with hypnobirthing and I started that, and that was just the most magical time doing that and supporting families, creating the best possible birthing experiences. And I loved it so much because it gave them such a grounding in life, and I felt like, and as parents, because I didn't kind of just stop at the hypnobirthing bit. We kind of went on. We did fourth trimester stuff, um, and yeah, I've kept in touch with most of the families, and so this was like 14 years ago when I started doing it. Kept in touch with a lot of them, and so many of them have gone on to have such been really kind, gentle parents and really supportive and made lots. And I've spoken to some fairly recently and they directly made decisions in their parenting journey because of the support I gave them. And they are like, and it went on to create a whole different world for them. So like some have gone on to home educate their kids, some have done like specifically gentle parenting, and it's shifted their careers and all sorts of like ripple effects. And it's that ripple effect that's just so magical, I think.
Absolutely.
Like, you know, that work we do in whatever field, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, you are creating ripples in
Mm.
how you are and what you are. And I love being part of that ripple, because we all want to do something tangible with our lives and give ourselves meaning, and that gives me meaning, to know that I've had these little shifts and changes, allowing people to have more, well, better life experiences for them and their families. And so that's sort of like gave me this bug. But yeah, probably about, I can't remember how many years down the road, a number of years down the road, I'd been doing it for a while, and I felt quite emotionally burdened by it because I was too hooked into their birth experiences, and
Right.
I found it really challenging to unlock from it. And yeah, so basically you hear very similar stories, and the medicalized version of birth kind of takes over some of the time. So you hear the story of, oh, my midwife says I need to go in for this scan for this reason. We're measuring big. We're this. We're that, and they've been told all this stuff. And yeah, I found it really hard because I knew what would happen. I'd given them the tools they needed to try and challenge
Yeah.
the medical professionals, but quite often it wasn't enough
No.
because they'd been indoctrinated with that fear and
We
the
all have.
whole like white coat syndrome. You wear the
Yeah.
white coat and you go noddy dog syndrome. You're like, oh yes,
Absolutely.
yes,
Yeah.
yes, 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 all right then. And because they say those words of like, your baby might die.
Yeah.
What are you gonna do? Like defy someone
Exactly.
who says that? But they use it as fear tactics, and it is definitely not always true.
Mm.
And yeah, I found it really heartbreaking a lot of the time. So
Mm.
I found that too much, really.
Mm.
But I don't think I was, in terms of my ability to look after myself in those things, I wasn't there at that point. I've since gone on and done a lot of work and training and things that has helped me. So if I say went back into it again, I think I could protect myself in the right way, to support myself in a better way to do that. But at that time, I didn't have that. But what I did have, and I started doing, were probably, I don't know, a couple of years after I started hypnobirthing, I started teaching Zumba, and it was just like, oh my God, life's a party. And so here's another way to get that ripple effect going and get people going. And I had, oh my God, I had the most amazing thing. One day I went to class, and at the end of the class, someone came up to me. It was in a gym. Someone came up to me and she said, oh my God, that was the most amazing, incredible thing I've ever done. My husband had lost his wife for the last 2 years over grief that I've been experiencing, and I am going to go home tonight and tell him I'm back. I tell you, I'm like, that is the power of dance, of affecting other people. And yeah, obviously that's going to stick with me. I remember doing a little video afterwards to try and capture it, and just like, oh my God, like this stuff, all this stuff we're doing is so powerful.
It is absolutely beautiful. Sorry, I just want to stop there because I just want to really connect in with that. That's really beautiful. Really beautiful.
Yeah, yeah. So it's yeah, all the work that I've done and try to do is like that, is that transformational stuff.
Mm.
And it's not without its challenge, because after that point in my life, my whole world kind of got thrown upside down by my husband at the time, who decided to have various affairs and discard me like a piece of rubbish. And then I discovered that he'd been coercively controlling me for our entire relationship, and he went on to continue to do that and still does it today. So yeah, that's been a huge challenge that I've been working through. And as I say, literally today, I've been wrestling over an email of how to take my power back on stuff, because that's a lot of what it is. At the beginning, it was just staying okay and, not falling apart,
Yeah.
because I had to, like for my kids, they're like, without me, what have they got?
Yeah.
Him,
Yeah.
you know? So it's like, okay, you've just got to hold it together, hold it together. And so for a long time, I was just holding it together.
Mm.
And that was really hard. And I had some other stuff happen as well. But in that experience, going through that led me to, as a matter of survival, self-care had to come absolutely first.
Yeah.
There was,
Yeah.
and still now, it's non-negotiable. And every day I have to start again and focus on what I really need. And I have to put in boundaries regularly, not just with him, but with all of my family and friends, to ensure that I'm looking after me. Because if I don't, they're losing a mum.
Yes.
They're losing their stability in life, their only stability in life.
Yeah.
So, but it took me a long time to recognize that self-care was vital. It was, for a long time, it was like nice to have. I really need to get around to it. I really need to get around to it, but I've got to just focus on surviving.
Mm.
But I didn't realize that that included self-care, that had to be integral, because then I had, obviously, I'm fast forwarding a lot of stuff, but I had a very mind-blowing experience with my daughter. It was, we were on holiday, and it was a small space, so we were sharing. She was in the living room having that space, because sometimes you have that for the couch, pull out sofa bed. And so halfway through I was like, okay, so do you want to swap over with your sister so that you can share? You've got some privacy. Privacy is really important to her. And she was like, no. I'm like, why not? Why wouldn't you? And she's like, oh, no, and just like pushed away. I'm like, oh, I don't get that. I don't get it. You can. You can. It's absolutely fine. No one's got a problem with that. It's really important that you have your space. She ignored and refused to respond. And then, after hours, literally hours, she sent me a text. Said, self-sacrifice, Amanda.
Okay.
So she learned that. She learned about self-sacrifice from one place. Right? Because in order to keep together for my kids, I had been sacrificing my own needs for a very long time. And she'd learned it. So much so, like at 10, she's already self-sacrificing herself. And I'm like, fuck, I can't do this anymore.
No.
I can't. This is not it's not fair on my kids, for starters, because this is what I'm teaching them, that this is what life is about. And this is not uncommon. It's very uncommon for a 10-year-old child to say those two words, but it is not uncommon for kids to fall into the trap and habits that they are being shown by their parents. This is what we all do. And we've had this transformation in the past 30 years of moving towards a space where we are calmer and kinder with our kids generally. However, we haven't learned that we need to heal the trauma that we're taken to before we can give of ourselves in the way we have been. And so we end up self-sacrificing. When we do that, we attribute lots of, there's blame heading towards that child, there's resentment building up, and that child is then ready to repeat that pattern. And we're doing that. And we're doing that in our droves, Amanda. And the women I speak to, and it is exclusively women, because, there is no such thing as dad guilt, is there, Amanda? But we've all heard of mum guilt. And there's a good reason for that. And that's called the patriarchy. So, yeah, we're having this all the time. And that is what drew me to working with people who do this, who get stuck in a cycle of getting triggered by stuff, reacting, and then feeling guilty and pulling on that guilt, and then that taking them down and down to lower in self-esteem, and then their ability to handle whatever it is transformed into one which is from one which is potentially resourceful and calm and patient into one that is reactive, and then goes round and round again. So, was that an introduction?
I'm not. Yeah, that's only taken half an hour. No, 20 minutes. 20 minutes. So, I don't need to ask many more questions, I think. But seriously though, and you haven't actually yet mentioned about your children in terms of where your journey with them.
Right. Well, yeah, they're interesting bunch. So I've got 3 kids, 2 from the unmentionable, and another from my subsequent marriage, which has also fallen apart because I went out and I was just like, I need someone to love me. Someone came and loved me, but not really, because I didn't know what I was looking for. So I was just like, come and love me because I need to be loved. Now, since then, I'm like, okay, no, I need to love me. That's who. Anyway, that's still not talked about my kids. Okay, so my eldest is Fauna. She's 15. She's just started this week. She just started college, and she's been home educated all this time. So this is huge news in our world. Huge news. Because she's gone to a course. She's just an amazing course that you wouldn't know existed, right? So it's called Find Your Futures, or Future, and essentially it's for kids who have either been out of education or not in institutional education, to help them understand what they could do in the future. And so it like potted ideas of what you can do for what's it called, careers and stuff, as well as like personal development and things like this, and understanding how to navigate different stuff. So like really, really great stuff about life skills and learning. But the best thing in the world for me is that opens the door to further education. She doesn't have to achieve GCSEs in order to go on to the next stage.
Okay.
Oh my God!
That's brilliant.
Isn't it? But for a child who really struggles with any sort of like formal exams and stuff, really slow processing skills, it's just like this amazing dream. So it was like, when I found out about it, I was like, oh, that sounds magic. You mean she really doesn't have to do them? Yeah. Okay, great. Let's do it. Sign her up. Sign her up. So
and
now,
how has she been coping with this week?
Well, she's doing it's 2.5 days a week, although it's classed as full time. And so she did 2 days. They've only done like introduction, basically, find out about how you access this, access that, and stuff like that. So, but she made two friends.
Brilliant. Brilliant.
So
That's
I
great.
was so pleased. So meanwhile, my middle daughter, who's she's 12, nearly 13, she's been a bit like, oh, it's a bit weird now because where's my sister?
Yeah, absolutely.
I've got to do this on my own now, have I? She's like, so that's a bit odd for her. We're trying to get her into a school as well at the moment, but we've got to go down the route of an education healthcare plan, which is a long drawn out process, which is very stressful.
Mhm.
And we're part way through that, probably about, I'd say over halfway through, but it's long. It's 20 weeks, but it's actually been longer than that already.
Wow. That's a huge drawn out
And
process.
that's just to get equal access to education, because she couldn't go into school without extra support. She would just run away.
And why is that?
Well, she's autistic. She's got this thing called pathological demand avoidance, which means almost as what it says on the tin, really. Like she will not accept any demands upon her. That's even one she might put upon herself. So things like if with home education, for example, this is how our day goes. No, this is how it used to go, right? Oh, can you do this, this, and this, and well, or just do this one thing, and then we'll get doing the next thing. And then what she would do, she wouldn't say no. She would just pop into the toilet. I'm just doing this, and so we'd get like an hour and a half, 2 hours in, and she's still not done anything. So that's what it would look like. So that's demand avoiding, right?
Okay.
Literally that. And so we have to work around that instead. So instead of saying, you can do this, or you're going to do this, it's like, what do you want to do today? And it's putting the
But
ball in her court.
what if the answer to that is I'd like to sit and watch TV all day?
Well, then that's what she does. Because in all likelihood, she would learn some stuff from that. So instead of the emphasis being on the doing the thing that you want them to do, it's about looking at the motivation behind what it is you want them to achieve. So you have to really look far off into the future where you want them to be and help them work back to the steps and how they can achieve that. And so when they can see those steps, then they start doing the things that they might want to do in order to achieve that. But if they can't see the steps and actually make their own way towards them.
Sounds like you're talking about me.
Really? Have you got PDA too, Amanda?
That's very much what I was like, a very stubborn little child, as I was told.
Yeah. So yeah, she would be described as very, very stubborn. But that's but the thing that makes it a little bit different from being stubborn is that she would do something that even harms herself,
Right.
because it's a demand that she can't deal with. So if I said to her, Autumn, you need to do blah blah, and it happened to be blah blah was the very thing she wanted to do, she wouldn't then do it.
Right.
So a lot
So
in the language.
homeschooling sounds like a bit of a nightmare.
Yes, and then during COVID, when my youngest was 3 and at home, oh my God, that was so hard because he was needing help and support. And because he couldn't cope with the whole, because he'd been at nursery, because I couldn't deal with him around when I was trying to teach the other two. I couldn't cope with that as an additional thing. And yeah, it was nigh on impossible. I can't believe we got anything done, I swear. I really don't. I think we just survived. We literally just survived at that point.
Yeah. I think a
Yeah.
lot of people just survived, didn't they? And they've
Yeah.
just come up for air now.
Mm.
Um, so
Yeah.
all of this has given you massive experience to be doing what you're doing now.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
when do you get the time?
Well,
That's the
that's a really
other
good question. I kind of force it in. Like literally, I force it in. Things have changed a lot in the last year because Borna had been studying for her GCSEs and was following a set program.
thing. Right.
And she was kind of motivated. I'd let go of any sort of hope of controlling what Autumn was doing at all. So she was either doing or not doing, and I was just allowing. That's where I'd got to. And so because I'm supervising on one side, literally I'm pointing because that's where their seats are, right? Supervising on one side, poking and things like this over here. On this side, I'm just like a bit eye rolly, to be honest with you, because I'm like, oh, I can't do anything. Like I can't do anything. So for a long time, I literally, for about 3 months, the only thing she would do was paint. So she painted.
Okay.
So
That's
that's fine.
creative. It's
She
creative.
painted.
Yeah.
Exactly. So that was great. But she was just so because she was doing a thing. So the only thing I didn't insist that she was in here with me. I definitely didn't insist on anything actually, but I would, there would be a momentum in that direction that this is what we're doing at this time. But because I was doing this supervisory act, it was like, I've got to be in here. I've got a computer. I can't just sit here doing nothing.
Yeah.
I might as well supercharge my business because up until that point, I hadn't really. I've been doing businesses, but they'd always been like a bit on the side because actually I hadn't had the time because I had been more focused on creating things that they were going to be learning and doing and how the things were going to be. But when Autumn just stopped, there was no point in me creating and doing and looking for resources because she wasn't going to look at them anyway. And even if she did deign to look at them, she wouldn't engage in them.
No.
So one of these tactics that I learned for PDA is quite tricky. Is if you can get somebody who they really admire to say the thing you want saying.
Okay.
Then that's a way in. So she really likes some YouTubers, and so I somehow need to get in with some really high up YouTubers and tell them, right, please make a video about this.
Do a homework.
This is what you need to make a video about, please. I've not done it. I haven't.
I've just been watching a program on BBC, which is about spooks and how they interject with feed of people transmitting stuff on TV and the airways, basically. So maybe that's what you need to do is cut the feed and change the feed.
Yes. Like I suppose if it's like if it's an animated one, then you can change out the audio.
This is using the technology is about actually changing the feed as it's coming out of somebody's mouth. It's still the same person, but they still managed to corrupt the whole thing. So they've got the person who looks the same, who sounds the same, but different words come out of their mouth. So I'm assuming don't know, but anyway, maybe this is actually able to happen in artificial intelligence. So if it is, that's the way forward.
Yeah, yes please. Yes please. Yeah, so for right now she's got a little bit of motivation because she's decided she wants to mirror school to a certain degree so that when she gets in, I mean that's still not a definite, when she gets in she might be at least have been doing some of the subjects they do, so she's got some external motivation that she's happy to go with.
Right.
So there is some work going on now.
Good.
And and we're just keeping it loose because I think she'd end up, if she did get in, she'd get in around halfway through year 8, meaning that actually she's not got any exams to do for Key Stage 3, and even if she did, it didn't really matter. So it's more just the idea of the subjects I think we're just going for, rather than actually curriculum at the moment, because then they start studying for their GCSEs at year 9 now, don't they? So it's much of a muchness really, just so she's just got her hand in, get an experience, so she'd know what she might want to choose for GCSEs potentially, things like that. So I'm really hopeful that she can get this space. There's actually a space currently in the school that's down the road, like literally in our village, and they've got a space in their specialist resource in her year, and every other year group is full.
Right.
They only have what is 8 places each year
Okay.
in this specialist resource. So it's like, oh, can you please, no, don't take anyone else, and they can't reserve the space or anything.
No.
It doesn't
And
work
so,
like that.
I mean, would she be able to go tomorrow? I mean, if she said, "Oh, I'd like to go tomorrow," would you
No,
be
she
able to?
can't. She can't go in. No, because she can't get a space with. She needs the support. You can only
Right.
get the support with the education healthcare plan,
Right. So that
which is
one.
this process. We've just had last week the educational psychologist assess needs, and I just got the report for 4 now, my eldest. So she's probably processing the report for autumn at the moment, which I've then got to go through. Because when you go through, I'll show you actually, I've just been doing it today, literally. It's a nice long report, 8-page report I've had to go through. Ta-da! That's one report. And in that, I've had to go through a fine-tooth comb, because you have to have all the things they say, because they have recommendations of what you need to do. And this is going towards like a legal document that will be reviewed, but potentially in place until they're 25, to ensure they have their needs for education met throughout that time.
Wow.
Which is incredible when and if you get it.
Yeah.
But what you need to do is make sure that all the details are like not wiggle outable, if you know what I mean. So they have to be really tangible and as much as possible. Like definitely like
And
smart
is there
targets,
someone that can
really,
support you with that service, with that form
with
filling?
that process.
Yeah. Sorry, process. Yeah.
Yeah, there are companies who you can pay to
All
do
right.
this work.
No one that does it for free then.
No, no, everything in the home ed world, everything costs a lot of money. Everything. You don't get anything for free. Nothing. You don't even get like the equivalent of what they give schools or anything for your kids. You don't even get that. You get nothing. Nada. Nada. They give you, sometimes there's a
That's very much
contact with.
favoured to being at school.
Oh yeah, definitely. And now and more we're getting scrutinised. And now with Liz Truss, it's looking even worse for the schools bill, which is coming through, potentially. That's going to radically impact our ability to continue home educating, like everybody in the UK, among many other things that it impacts. We really need to push hard against that schools bill. It's hugely divisive to so many people, either in school and outside school, in so many different ways. It's hugely impactful.
And so, do you think that it has benefited them to not be in the school system so far, to have not been?
Well, yeah, I mean, at all times, I've always questioned my journey with them. Like, is this the right thing to do for them? And the answer has always been yes, for their mental health, because I know they can't cope in
Right.
without the extra support and structure. And I've never really, I mean, in primary school, there isn't such thing as like the same sort of thing as like a integrated resource like they do have in secondary school.
Yeah.
So you would just be popping in the middle. They do things like the kids are given like a special area that they can retreat to.
Yeah.
But do you know what the special area is, Amanda? And I
Yeah.
haven't ever heard of it being anything other than this.
Right.
Either a piece of fabric that goes over a desk or a cardboard box.
What?
That's what the kids can access in primary schools. as a resource to help them calm down.
So what, they would put a cardboard box over their head?
No. A big cardboard box that they can get into. But it's
But
got
still within the room where all the noise and all the activities going on.
all of that. But then also, it's not always protected, and so kids might just, when that child isn't in it, they might come in and play in there or mess around, and so, and that's it. I have literally not heard of any other resource in a primary school. Secondary school, yes. But in a primary school, I've not heard of another type of escape space, safe space that they offer. There may be, but I've talked to a lot of parents who've got kids in school who are autistic, and that is what they're offered.
Wow.
Yeah.
When actually what they need is a calm room with a calm person to sit with them. And no sound and...
Exactly, and that's what they're offered in like these lovely integrated resource centres within secondary schools. That's if they have the place. That's if they've got the education healthcare plan identifying that that's what they need, because you're not even guaranteed it. If you are autistic and have an EHCP, you might still not be able to access that resource centre. It's only if the EHCP is so specific that it identifies that that's a necessary part of their education for them to be able to access things. So
it has to be form filled and no common sense is applied, and if it doesn't fit on the form, then it doesn't happen. Is just
definitely it will, because it's all about money.
Fit into a box of a certain criteria, or
and it is all about money in terms of, because everyone's gatekeeping their money because it's disseminated in different ways, and then when it gets to school, it's not protected. The money, it's not protected in the school. The money they're given,
that can be used in any which way
and like if they're as long as they're fulfilling their legal obligation, that money can go elsewhere. So but there's a lot of gatekeeping of the money, and so that is why I discovered this, and I was not really shocked, but it's a horrible statistic. So you apply, and there's this whole long series of things that you have to do. The first thing of which is just get over the hurdle and have them agree to assess your children. Okay, they will only agree to us. The law says they should agree to assess if your child appears to have more needs than their peers. Right? That is it. So it's quite a low bar, right, to assess. However, it's so bad that pretty much every single person who's applying is told, no, we will not assess, even if they very easily fulfill those requirements. We easily did. They said no. We had to go to appeal process. We were halfway through towards that, which was taking months, and then they conceded. But apparently 97% of all cases that go to appeal are allowed through. 97%. That's because they are just unlawfully saying no all the time. And this is the local authority. So it goes higher up.
So they're just stalling, really.
Yes.
For time and money.
And pushing back on people who need the money, who haven't got maybe the intelligence or understanding or support to tell them to push on through. So you're literally weeding people out.
Well, if we say no at first, then they might not ask again.
Exactly, and that's what they go for. They go for that, and because it's a horrid process, we had to go through this. The next thing they say is, "Oh, you have to go to mediation." So I had to speak to a mediation person, and I refused mediation, which you can refuse, because I knew it would just be them saying, "Oh, we can do," like literally. My kids were told. The reason they were going to assess their needs was like, oh, they're home educated, they don't need any support. And yet they've got a legal obligation to educate my kids. It's just a joke. It's such a joke. And so obviously in my retort, it was just like, I'm not going to home educate anymore. So like they couldn't use the argument anymore as just as a reason to get over that hurdle, because I was like, I've got to get them assessed. Because I knew once they were assessed, we'd probably be able to get somewhere. But just getting the assessment, literally just getting seen by somebody. Because up until then, it's just I pushed some paper at them. That's all I'd done.
So tell me, in all of this, how have you been able to carry on, survive?
Well, as I mentioned before, it's a daily struggle, literally daily. Like people say to me, my most triggering question is, "How are you?" When people say that to me, and people ask all the time, because I'm, for good or bad, I share and I say stuff. I say how I feel, and it's out there. According to my human design, and I'm guided by my emotional design through my solar plexus, and so I'm there all the time. And so, how are you? Fucking awful. Some days, on the edge, a lot of days, because it's being bombarded with one angle, like, okay, I've got to deal with all this stuff to do with the EHCP. I've got this ex who's giving me a load of grief. I've got the normal everyday challenges of bringing up kids. I've got money issues and blah, 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 you name it. And I'm trying to run a business or two. It's like, oh my God. I don't know how I do it, other than I'm really strict with myself on my self-care practices. That's the only way.
And what are they, if you don't mind me asking?
So they do vary, because I'll go through stages of doing a thing for a while, and then I'll kind of either lose favourite with it or want to do another thing, and I can't like pile too much stuff on at once. So I'm like, okay, I limit my time. So first thing in the morning, when I wake up, I spend time thinking about what I appreciate, what I'm grateful for. So I write 10 things normally every day that I'm grateful for. Sometimes I do a meditation which focuses on the gratitude and visualizing what I want to do at that time. Sometimes I might do that. And sometimes I might do some EFT to help me with those and focus on, the bigger picture of what I really want. So setting my day up, I really have to set up my day in the way that I want to continue with the day. And most recently, I've added Kundalini yoga practice into my daily routine. So I'm not doing a full hour and a half, 2 hours jobby, because I haven't got time for that. But I discovered it when I was on a home ed festival and this summer, and it was just divine. I loved it. And the thing I loved about it was it's combining my body, my breath work, and my meditation all into one.
Right.
And those are all the things I wanted to be working on. It's like, oh, they're just all in one. Yay, tick.
Right, excellent. So that's some time.
Yeah, exactly. Save some time. But also I really like it. And so I found a nice yoga class on YouTube that I do every day. So it depends on how much time I've got. I love the filter thing. I don't know if you ever used it on YouTube. You can literally search for a thing, and then you go in filters, and you can find stuff that it's say between 4 and 20 minutes, for example. And so I know if I've got under 20 minutes, then I can just do that filter and get the right one. So I'm loving that. And I also, partway through the day, if I'm feeling a bit low, I'll do some energy medicine, which I learned a number of years ago, and I just love it. That's really good for raising your energy and feeling good, and it's a physical thing. It's great to do with kids as well, because you don't really have to know about any of the stuff. You don't have to meditate at that time. You can just physically do the things and get realigned, and I love that, because I'm quite a physical person. I'm not very good at sitting still.
Yeah.
I know, coming to yours, Amanda, I'm getting better at it. But I do like doing something. So that's why with the yoga, it really works for me. So the breathing and the meditation whilst I'm moving. So that those things combined work for me. And so doing that all the time. I also, one of the most important things in my life I do is on my boundaries. And the biggest boundary I have is over the media. I do not at any point listen to, partake in the news at all. I barely know stuff that's going on. I hear about it sometimes when people mention. So that's how I heard about the Queen.
Yeah.
Just somebody mentioned it.
Yeah.
So because that is, for me, the biggest impact on my well-being.
Yeah.
And I discovered this
Very toxic.
very acutely. I mean, I'd always felt it for the last sort of 10 years, I would say, but most clearly during COVID, I was just shut us down.
Absolutely. I found that myself exactly the same, that it was becoming very, very toxic. And I found that it was very fear-mongering. And when you are locked away in your house on your own and you're being fed fear, then it's not a great environment for mental health. So
No.
I switched it off and I said, no, I'm not going to partake in that. And a lot of people, well, my family were all over the media. They love it. My sister works in PR, but I'm just not about to get involved with that level of nonsense.
Yeah.
Right.
And for a while, actually, I stopped going on all social media as well for the same reason.
Well done.
For the same reason.
Mm.
But then starting business, I felt I had to.
Yeah, but I think you can tailor your social media,
which is what I've done.
Yeah.
I get, if anybody is even remotely negative or sharing anything remotely awful, I block them. Now, this is something maybe controversial. I don't unfollow anyone. I block anyone or unfriend anybody. I block anyone I don't want to see, because what happens when you unfollow you unfriend person? A month later, they pop up, don't they? And they're like, I was friends with you, and you get an annoying, horrible messenger message from them. Like, why have you? I'm not having any of that. If you're off, and you're not even knowing you're off. Thanks. I'm done. I'm really strict with myself about a lot of things like this. I remember I went to a friend's house a few months ago, and I was sitting there, and he went off to make me a cup of tea, which is nice. But he went over and he put the telly on as he was leaving the room. I'm like, why are you putting the telly on? I got really nervous, and I followed him into the kitchen. Why have you put the telly on? Because the news came up, and I was like, could you just turn it off, please? I was like, what is that? People just have it on. They just have it on, programming their brains with fear. I can't. I mean, each to their own, but it's not, because of who is controlling a lot of this media. It's so toxic for so many reasons. And I don't want to be part of it. And if people are in constant conversations about it, I don't want to be part of those either. And so that's why I think that boundaries is just so key for me.
I can see, because I have a lot of people who do very much listen to the media, so I still hear about it a lot, but I don't actively participate in it. I can see for them it doesn't actually bring them any joy to be participating in it or actively engage with it, and so it's I find it quite frustrating that it creates a real sense of there's a whole woke stuff that's going on, and I just think why give rise to it? Why discuss it? Why talk about it? Why inflame it? There's so many things that we can do in our own lives just to be? And how often do you feel that, any of that, when you're out and about and you're engaging one to one with people? You can sense who it is and who you want to be around, and who and how you want to direct your way. Inside what is exciting for you, what how you want your life to be, and you are, as you open yourself up towards that, that comes towards you. So your life becomes much more enriched by being around the right people, by being hearing the right things, because it doesn't there are a number of things in life that we have no control over, and engaging in that story and in that debate doesn't give you any more of a control over what is happening.
No, and even less so, really, because you're being indoctrinated into the fear and you're more likely to fall prey to any of the negative things.
Exactly, and you feel that society as a whole is coming to an end, or but actually when you engage one to one with people and you talk to them, and I speak to people every day, all day, because I that's what I do for a living. So I get to see the truest essence of the person and the people that I see, and to have a human connection. And I think we really have to continue with that engagement on a human level, on a one-to-one level, and that is what we can change, and that is how we can work towards a bigger, brighter, better future. But we cannot do that with engaging with stuff that's just not we're not able to change. So yeah, I'm completely with you on that. Just why engage with something that's not beneficial for your
Yeah.
health, really.
I think there's one tiny exception, and I've just let it back into my life in the last few weeks, and that's a podcast called The Guilty Feminist. I don't know if you've come across it, but it does look at global news and what's going on in the world and supporting people, but it's all about raising up the voices of the maligned and people who need support, and doing, and actually tangibly, because the host is Deborah Francis White, and she will always say, what can we do to help you? She will always say that. And how can we raise you up? And she will always find the white cis man in the audience, and she will say, so what have you done this week to help feminism? She'll literally say that, and then if they say something a bit naff, she'll say, okay, well, here you go, you can start donating 20 quid a month to this cause that we're talking about.
Brilliant, absolutely brilliant.
So yeah, it's a good listen. I think that's the only news thing that I expose myself to. And actually, they've also got this new podcast under their umbrella, which is, now I can't remember the name of it, but it is literally about seeing the news from other people's perspectives. So we hear stories about people like Indigenous people. They actually go and talk to Indigenous people and hear from them their perspective, rather than being the
generalization of yeah.
and what people think. They're actually real people, and I think that's really, really valuable. Anti mass media programming, and I strongly advocate that sort of stuff, but I have to be careful when I listen to it, because it doesn't contain some doom and gloom stuff, but because they're focused on what can we do, that is the sort of thing I like most of the time with news. It's all about, here is the awful world we live in, soak it in, folks. Right, just soak and glorify in the horrendousness of it, and argue with everybody about it. But here's a path to supporting people lift themselves up. And I think if there is any engagement with news from my perspective, it's going to be in that sort of way of, how is there something we can do, what is the tangible thing we can do to support here. So that's what I do.
Brilliant. So is there I'm going to ask you that question, I'm afraid, that you are triggered by, if that's all right, because that's kind of part of what I'm trying to do is to get people to share and to connect and to feel. And so, whatever it is that you're feeling in this moment, are you able to go in and just sit with that for a second? And would you be willing to do that? Is that too
I
much
don't
for you?
know. I don't know. I mean, because I don't know if I can do that because I spend a lot of time being triggered. You know, I've been triggered probably about 5 times already today, so I'm not sure if I want to go
That's
there
fine.
again right now
Good. And
voluntarily.
thank you for setting that boundary. That's great. That's a really healthy boundary. And yeah, I can understand with everything that you're going through and have been going through. It's been a big journey for you, and it continues to be so. So
Yeah,
I understand that. Um,
thank
sharing
you.
all of that is a lot. So um, I wish you well, and I what's your one sort of top tip that you would offer to somebody who may be in similar circumstances?
Well, I would hope no one's in the same similar circumstances because they're pretty shit. um, but I would take care of yourself because there's no one else but you. No one else is going to do it. No one else is going to take care of you. They might give you a cuddle if you ask for it, but you have got to ask for it if you
Yeah,
have got someone to give you a cuddle, you know. You've got to take care of yourself and be responsible for that. And if that's the only thing you do any day, do that. And if that means the thing you're doing is not doing, then do that. But being okay with that, that would be it really. Radical self-care, this is, Amanda, properly radical.
yeah. Thank you. Thank you very much for coming along today
Oh,
and
you're welcome.
sharing everything. And I wish you well and a lot of love and
Thank you. You
lots of
too.
cuddles, lots of hugs,
Thank you. You
and
too.
uh, just let you know that I have my healing hut day of if you're interested in coming on the 2nd of October.
Oh, if
2nd
only. If
2nd.
only, Amanda. If
So
only. If
if you are
only.
able to come, you are more than welcome.
Yeah,
But
I hope other people on here will be able to come. But yeah, and when I've looked at it, it's in my dreams that would be a possibility, and possibly in the future, that is a goal I can work towards.
okay, brilliant. All right, I send you lots of love and I thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.